Hey, what's going on, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so let's go to a much lighter topic than all of the topics I've been talking about. Let's get back to basketball. So, as you guys already know, because if you follow me, this is not going to be a surprise to you in any way, shape, or form, but it has been reported that LeBron James has no problem leaving the Los Angeles Lakers to play wherever his son's going to play. We know that. We literally know that. That's one of the reasons why I think the Lakers need to consider life after LeBron James before that happens. Unless you can secure the draft rights of his son, and I don't know how we're going to do that without the type of assets necessary to put us in a position to do that. And mind you this, now you're competing with the understanding that that's one of the most important draft picks in the world, because not only does it give you a young prospect, however you rate Bronny James, but it also gives you LeBron James, then no one's going to ever, literally ever trade that pick. You're not going to trade that pick. If you even think it can draft Bronny James, you're not trading that pick. That's the most, literally, mate, that could be, in some ways, the most valuable draft pick of all time. Honestly. So if the Lakers can't somehow secure that draft pick, then you have to understand that LeBron James is ultimately going to consider leaving you, if not definitely going to leave you. So, yeah, we've been talking about this for a couple months now, because it's been understood, Look, man, this is a family affair. As much as he may appreciate or not appreciate whatever he thinks of the Lakers, it ain't more important than giving himself a chance to play with his son. This is the most important thing in his life. You know what I mean? There's nothing more important than his kids. Not even the game of basketball is more important than this child. So, if there's any chance he can play with his kid, if we're, going to be honest, it's right. It's the right move for himself and his family. It's the right move for his kid as well. So, I'm not going to discourage that notion that he should do that. Nor am I going to lie to you guys and tell you that we can probably acquire that pick, not without the assets necessary to do so. And again, it's going to be very, very expensive in and of itself. Even if his son's a second-round pick, you still understand that's the most valuable second-round pick of all time. So I don't know where Bronny James lands. I haven't looked at the standings. I know he's not number one and stuff like that, but he may fall in the first round. He may be a first, depending on how far it goes for him. Maybe he plays himself up and reaches a top 15 player or something like that. But he's not considered at this point a 1, 2, or 3 guy. He's not DeJuan Wagner's kid or nothing like that. So what we're going to have to understand is, if you don't have a path to acquiring him, then it's probably best to jump off the LeBron train before it stops. And that's what I've been preaching on this camera for as long as I have. Really, it's just an understanding. So, I still think the Lakers should consider trading LeBron James before that happens. I think it's probably the most realistic, well, not realistic, but it's probably the most reasonable thing for you to do if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, is consider and have a sit-down conversation with him, if you haven't already, and discuss ways of parting ways. If it's not this year, it's before then. You see what I'm saying? And we have to get out from under him before then, and we have to try to salvage his value, which is astronomical even now. LeBron James is still a top 5 player in this league. And if you want to argue that, fine, we can say top 10. But I don't think he's out of the 5 at all. The way he's been playing, even before the injury, the guy is still capable of winning an MVP in this league. So, yeah, I think we can get a lot for him. I think that's obviously an understatement, to say the least. He's the number one guy that everybody wants in terms of being able to put booties in seats, as I like to say. He's going to be the number one draw in the league, whether he's the best player in the league or not. So you can get your future back. All the stuff that we gave away to get AD and all the stuff that we gave away to get Russell Westbrook, we can accumulate most of that just by trading LeBron James himself. Now, do you give up $1 billion plus, much more than probably just $1 billion in terms of revenue and what you have for your franchise? Yes. But if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, are you worried about recouping that? Hell no. You're the Los Angeles Lakers. No. Anybody else? Maybe. But the Lakers? Absolutely not. Whoever we put in this uniform is going to bring an incredible draw, because we're the Lakers. So we can afford to let LeBron James go somewhere else and still salvage who we are. But that is at risk if you let him walk for nothing. You see what I'm saying? You put yourself in a position to be very bad. And if you're very bad, and we've seen how that goes. When we had Sacre and those guys, people would pay attention, but only to a point. But if we can get the return that LeBron James can provide, You know what I'm saying? You trade him to the Rockets for the entire core of the Rockets. You put them in Lakers uniform. You put them in a Laker uniform, and you're going to salvage all that you've lost as they grow into who they're going to be. You trade them to Charlotte, and you bring back all their core. You're going to feel real good. You trade them to Minnesota, and you trade them for their core. You're going to feel real good. Now, I'm not saying every team is going to give you their entire core, but what I'm saying is that's the price tag I put on him. Who wants to bite? You know what I mean? If you're not going to give me your young players, you're going to give me picks from here to 2027. And that way we can recoup all that we've had. Trust these scouts who have done a fantastic job over the last 7 years of putting all of the best talent the NBA has to offer in purple and gold to start their careers and start the process of having a rebuilding situation that shouldn't be that bad, to be honest with you. And you look at players like Evan Mobley. I look at Cleveland. Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, LaMelo Ball, John Morant. It doesn't take that long for a lot of these young guys to be who it is they're going to become. It's not like it used to be back in the day when T-Mac and Kobe was drafted. It would take 4 and 5 years for these guys to become who they are. Look around. These kids come in right away, all-star. Look at Scotty Barnes. I could argue Scotty Barnes could have been an all-star if he played all games this season. I could argue that LaMelo Ball was snubbed this year. He was just drafted last year. You know, same thing with Anthony Edwards. These guys come into the league ready. And that is why I don't think teams who are trying to rebuild have to wait a very long time if they build correctly. It ain't like it used to be. So, yeah, I want picks because I know what the league's about to turn into. It's a young man's league, and it's not going to be long before young players are the ones hoisting the trophies. You know, I just think the Lakers were building backwards. I think they were thinking in an old way, and the game kind of passed that thinking by. You know. And I think that a lot of that's on LeBron James and his choices and what he prefers. Had he been thinking the way the league is going, he would surround himself with nothing but young players, and he would be the oldest guy there, and he would be able to lead the charge with the team winning that way. But, you know, he wanted to play with guys his own age, and we've already talked about how I don't agree with that thinking. But at the end of the day, you know, I wonder, my concern is about the thinking of the Lakers as currently. Do they agree with what it is I just got through saying for the last couple minutes, or would they try to trade Bron for, say, like Dame Lillard or James Harden, which I know is a mistake. You know, it's not about reaching behind you, man. It's about looking forward, reaching forward. For me, players I want, the guys in Cleveland, I've already named them, and there's a few others too. Now, if you can get me a Joel Embiid, that I would be happy with that, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I don't think that's realistic. But the point is, you want to try to get the next one so that you can put yourself in a position with your rebuild to already have stars in place that you know, that you trust, or that you know can get you a fantastic return if you want to move on from them. So that is how to move forward if you're the Lakers. Even though we don't have assets, we still have LeBron James. We still have Anthony Davis. And those guys can get you 2 futures. You understand what I'm saying? You trade Anthony Davis for a bunch of plethora of picks and a bunch of assets. You trade LeBron James for a plethora of picks and a bunch of assets. You can build this thing a million different ways. You can have a team 12 deep full of guys that are really, really good. There's so many different things you can do. You know what I mean? So it's all about how the Lakers are viewing it. I don't think they have been in a position to be ready to make that decision, I guess is what you could say. They haven't had the strength, the gall, the stomach to do it. But me, it's like, I don't see another choice. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do that because I don't see no other way forward. I don't want LeBron James to just leave and go play with his son wherever and leave us without recouping those assets, especially with as many assets as he can provide in a trade. That's just crazy. You know what I mean? Especially given the fact that he's 37 years of age. There's no way on God's green earth I'm letting him walk. No. Him? Heck no. He is definitely leaving here in trade if I'm the GM. Ain't no question about that. I am trading him, and he will know it. Now, it's one of those questions. The question is when? Is it going to be this season? Is it going to be at the end of the season in the off season? Is it going to be next season in the trade deadline? I don't know. It all depends on how things are going. It all depends on how close we are to a championship when it's time to do so. But trust you me, I'm recouping all of his value because it ain't no cap space represented that can get you anything that would compare to what it is that he can get you in trade. And that's what I understand. Him walking away, yes, cap space is great when players walk away from you and their contracts expire. That's a valuable thing because that space can get you a chance to sign anybody. But what that space won't do is net you picks. What that space won't do is get you everybody. And so LeBron James is capable of getting me all kinds of stuff, and I have to trade him. Now, the thing about it is, what about Anthony Davis? What about Russell Westbrook? You know, we're in the midst of trying to win a championship. As bad as it looks, those guys still believe they can win. Blah, blah, blah. All that's understood. I don't care what they think. Can I be any more clear? I don't care because I'm thinking about the future. And I see what we have right now. I don't believe it's good enough. They can believe whatever they want. I don't believe it's good enough. So that's how I'm thinking as a fan. That's how I would be thinking as an owner. And that's how I would be thinking as a GM. I'm going to recoup that value. Now, the way AD's been playing these last couple of games, I don't feel it's good about trading him. But the reality is, the better he plays, the more value he has. So it would probably be wise to trade him now, since he looks so great. But, you know, I don't think anybody's in the business of trading away a 28-year-old phenom like Anthony Davis when you know what it is that he can do. There's only 2 players in the league that are as efficient defensively and foul as little as Anthony Davis. The other guy is Evan Mobley in Cleveland. So that's it. Those are the only 2 guys that can be as effective defensively without fouling. They have a special superpower in that way. So you value that as rare as it is, and you price those guys ridiculously out of this world. And that is something that I understand as well. LeBron he loves Cleveland. You're giving me back Evan Mobley. If I'm trading LeBron to Cleveland, that is happening with Evan Mobley attached to that trade. And if I can put Evan Mobley and Anthony Davis together, I can argue I can win 3, 4, 5 championships with those guys. I can do that. If I put the right players around it, I can do that. So, you know, I mean, my mind goes in a lot of different directions. I'm not a cap expert. I'm not a salary tax guy. So there's a lot of things about my perspective that may not actually work within the confines of what is possible. But what I'm telling you is, if you know Bron is leaving, yeah, I mean, shoot, you gotta make sure that you get something for him. You can't let him walk, or you can't let his value get to its lowest point and then trade him. You trade him when the value's high. You know, just like you would handle a stock. You're not going to trade your stock when it's bleeding out. You're gonna sell that stock when it's at a point where it's running up real fast, so you know that you're getting the most for that value. So that's how I look at these players, man. That's how I look at the circumstance the Lakers are in. We're at a disadvantage so long as we lock ourselves into the notion that we can't trade Bron and AD. But if you're willing to trade Bron and AD, oh man, you got everything. You got everything you need. So it's just how you look at it and what you're willing to do, what you have the stomach to do. And so that's what it is, man. Hey, Bron's gonna leave, y'all. I'm telling you, it ain't a question. It's about where to, and will we let him walk for nothing? Because if his son gets drafted by the OKC Thunder, he's gonna put on a Thunder uniform. If his son gets drafted by the Clippers, he's gonna go down the hall. If his son gets drafted by the Nets, he's gonna go to the, you know, this is what he's going to do. You know, whether you agree with it or not, he doesn't care, and I don't think he should. As somebody who is his age, I don't think he should give a damn what we think. His son comes first, period, and he should. So that's what I got to say, man. Yeah, BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.